special. As always, the Open Meetings Act is posted back by the back door on the wall, for anybody who needs to read that. Go ahead, do roll call.
Skylar?
Here.
Greg?
Here.
Brad?
Here.
Go ahead and rise and do the pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead and open up the public hearing on items 2A and B. Amendments to the City of Ainsworth's Economic Development Program Plan as proposed by the Citizens Advisory Review Committee, and on agreement for economic development services between the City of Ainsworth and the North Central Development Center.
Can I say it before we start, or go ahead and say it as a citizen for the hearing?
That's fine if we want to do that. I was gonna roll into regular business, but you want to wait until we do that, or you want to do it now?
Okay. Well, we're not voting on these issues now?
All right, now.
The hearing issues?
Yeah, I want to do regular, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, that'll work.
When we go into this, we'll just say we'll give everybody about 5 minutes apiece for what they have to say. For that. So let's move on to regular business. 3A, presentation and recommendation of the pool filter replacement project bid by Larry Steele, Miller and Associates.
Well, we opened bids for the swimming pool filter today. Unfortunately, they weren't very favorable. You've got a letter in front of you. We had estimated about $80,100 to remove the old filter, put in the new filter pump. And the bids came in at first, the low bid was $131,745. This bid had a exception noted on it. He was not going to be able to complete it by the contract dates that we had in the specifications. The second bid was from, and the first one was from Phil Karkowski out of Loop City. And then the second bid we had was Christensen Construction. They're out of Pender, and they came in at $132,500. Based on the bids that we have right now, I guess since they're substantially over what we had estimated, probably don't have that in the budget. And so what we're going to recommend is that we reject the bids and we rebid it with a completion date of basically next year. Go ahead and run the pool as is this year, and talk to a couple, these two bidders and a couple other ones, and find out if there's something that we can change in the project to help it. But I think part of it was last fall we had a lot of moisture. Contractors are fairly busy, and so they just couldn't bid this on this short of a time frame. So I think we would get much better bids come for next year's construction, basically. My recommendation is we would go ahead and bid it prior to your next board meeting in April, and see what we get at that point, and we can come back with recommendations back based on that.
Any questions? All right.
Thank you for checking it
Thank
out.
you.
All right, thank you.
All right. I'm assuming you want to make a motion to reject those bids.
Yeah, I'll move to reject the bids.
First was Skylar. Second.
Second.
All right, I guess we'll open it up to the public now. Your comments and concerns. All I ask is we try to remain calm and collect about this as we move through this. Let's go ahead and do item 8, amendments to the City of Ainsworth Economic Development Program Plan proposed by the CARC.
Can I make a statement, may I? I just wanted to basically bring people up to speed on what we know so far. That NCDC was running the LB 840 program for the city, and we found in the audit that they took $35,000 of professional recruitment funds, and we were told at the last meeting by the president of the board it was used to fix a damaged roof at the theater, which is owned by NCDC. And we have found since then, and then later it was paid back. We found since then that it was paid back with money that was taken from other tax money the city has given them in the demolition fund. So to me, I just, yes. So I'd just like to point out that I am very much against signing any contract with NCDC, and discussing it to me is actually absurd. So that is my piece.
It should also be noticed that he should be signing a conflict of interest because he does have one with the NCDC. And we haven't stated that before.
Okay.
I'm not for sure what you're talking about, unless you're talking about I had a business venture a while back that I pursued, and NCDC worked with me for a little bit, and then we stopped working together.
So I do think you should recruit just like I do from.
Is that right? I disagree. I'd rather, maybe we could bring that to Edgar as well, if you feel so strongly about it.
I think what we need to do the amendments to the plan first.
Right.
And take up that NCDC issue next.
Well, we're working on the amendments to the plan, the contract, right? Well, I wanted to.
No.
We're just talking about
Oh,
amendments
plan,
to
sorry.
the economic development plan here now, Strother, and
No.
then we'll take up that.
Sorry, I apologize. I thought we were talking about the
Yeah.
contract.
The amendments to the plan, if we're ready to talk about that now, we recommended as the Citizens Advisory Review Committee, and it is within our power to recommend these changes to the plan. And with City Council's approval, we will adopt these changes. I think all of you have a copy of this amendment. I'm not going to read the whole plan. We can go through these changes if you'd like. Page 404, we're basically adjusting the type of business that is actually a qualifying business for LB 840 funds. We changed a little wording in there for, it already had construction or rehabilitation of housing. We changed that, dropped the housing, added real estate improvements, retail trade, and then we dropped or any other business deemed a qualifying business through future action of legislature. And then we added the production of films, including feature independent documentary films, commercials, and TV programs. We also added in there for providing of professional services, including medical and other professional providers, which was recommended by Mr. Edgar. Those are the biggest changes that we recommended. We go a little further down through the plan. Page 13 of 13, there was a change, and Lisa explained this to me today. There was a change in the law, basically. Before there was a cap Total estimated expenditures cannot exceed 0.4% of the city's evaluation from year to year. Since this was written, that law has been changed, and that is no longer a law the way it was explained to me. So seeing as how it's no longer law, Edgar just decided we should strike it out of the plan. And on the next page, 15, we changed the word. We added program administrator instead of economic development director, who will serve as an ex officio member of this committee. And we struck out, will contract with economic development director to act as program administrator, seeing as how we already have Lisa as a program administrator. I think that's it. So basically, is our recommendation to amend the plan as we just talked about. I don't see any big controversy on this, but I guess we'll open it up to you guys.
Roger, anything on this?
Well, I just got this yesterday, but I would have a couple suggestions for your committee. One is that on page 15 of 15, where it adds the program administrator to serve as an ex officio member of the Citizens Advisory Review Committee, it sets out that the Citizens Advisory Review Committee shall consist of 5 people. 3 are appointed by the mayor, and 2 members are recommended by the Chamber of Commerce. And then those recommendations are delivered to the mayor, who then makes those appointments also. And there's generally a reason why a committee is made of an odd number, because for voting purposes.
Right.
So they don't have a tie vote. It doesn't say whether that ex officio member would have a vote. And I'm assuming it would not, but that always leaves it up in the air as to whether they have a vote or not if they're a member.
I would assume ex officio, meant that do not have a vote, but.
We could clarify that real easy by saying they're an ex officio member who cannot vote.
Who cannot vote.
State statute actually dictates that that's a non-voting member.
Ex officio. State statute states ex officio as a
That is
non-voting. That's above my pay grade. So.
Well, I don't know, it just makes more sense to me to clarify it rather than have an issue sometime down the road. As long as you're,
Sure.
as long as you're changing it and reviewing.
Well, that's why
trying
we're
to
here.
Get it workable.
That's why we're here. I suppose we could add the wording, ex officio member with no voting rights or something like that.
That clarifies.
If that would appease everybody.
Or you could have them vote too.
Yeah, well,
I don't think they were intended to vote.
no. Any other comments or recommendations? Marcus or Colleen, you okay with adding that wordage?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Well, we will present this with that amendment to add no voting privileges to that ex officio member.
Oh. I had another comment, but it may be able to be taken care of in that checklist that the program administrator will follow. When people come in like for a loan, they'll ask for certain information from them, like their their plan, their business plan, they ask for their federal tax returns, 2 years of signed returns, current profit and loss statements, balance sheets, if it's a partnership agreement, if it's a corporation, then their corporation bylaws and corporate resolutions allowing them to have a loan, and things like that. One of the things that I have found throughout the years in dealing with loans is that if they are an LLC or a corporation or even a partnership that is formed, that's recorded. The Secretary of State, upon request, will issue whether that LLC or corporation is in good standing. It's easy sometimes for these organizations to fall out of good standing and be dissolved automatically by not filing their occupation tax every year. And if they don't, then they automatically get dissolved by the Secretary of State. And so they're not a legal entity.
Right.
We don't want people signing documents binding an entity that's not legal. And the way that we go about that is we require a certificate in good standing from the Secretary of State for each one of those loans. And that tells the people that they're dealing with, or the lender, that they are in good standing, that they've paid their occupation taxes, and that they haven't been dissolved. That you run into problems sometimes if you don't have that. I would suggest that maybe that be added to that list.
To the checklist.
To that, well, it might be on the checklist. It should be on the checklist already, but it's not in this list that's listed in the program under paragraph. Well, it starts on page 8 of 8. It says what the applicants have to do, the information that they require of each applicant. And so it would be true with S corporations, C corporations, and limited partnerships and limited liability companies and limited liability partnerships. These are all registered with the Secretary of State. And so that would be a suggestion. Might cause take care of a problem down the road.
Wouldn't that fall under well, the last one ends up with other information as requested, you know, which falls into the checklist.
Yeah, good, it could.
But I know, I've been on what you're talking about. I was applying for a loan, and my banker said, you know, your corporation is not in good standing with the state of South Dakota.
Yeah, happens a lot.
Yeah, paid the $50 and I got my loan.
They actually dissolve your corporate status.
It wasn't quite that long.
Okay.
If you had 50 bucks, why'd you need one?
Yeah, that's right.
I'd just like to thank the members. I know the Citizens Advisory Review Committee and then Lisa and Kristen for working on this, get us updated. If I'm not mistaken, in the letter that Rick had drafted on December 31st, I think in going through that, you guys have covered all the items. So if, when we get moving forward, that should allow all of these different groups to be able to move forward also when they make their adjustments to what you guys have proposed. The only thing in there that I did see, and I think this is probably a city issue, Rick's first recommendations, that confidentiality agreement that we need to obtain from basically the Citizens Advisory Review Committee as well as other individuals. Where are we at with that? Okay, so Rick is reviewing that for us then? Okay, all right. But again, that's something he did recommend that's in this list. That's thought we probably should continue to move forward to get that done. Because that's part of the requirement that we need to sign for us.
Two more questions, Con?
Well, I think there's a couple more issues. That law, we never did get an updated, title insurance. We had an old one.
Yeah.
Did we get it on? Brand new? Or was it old? That was the old one, I think. That's all I saw, is the old one.
Right, it's the one from
several
when they
years ago.
purchased it.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's not updated. We said we needed an updated one showing the current title.
Oh, I always need clear title, I guess.
And
Well, that should-
I haven't received it. They gave the old one, but not the new one, not a new one.
That shouldn't be too difficult.
It's not difficult, it's just a matter of having it through.
Was it Avery that had done it?
Yeah, every day.
Okay. Is that something you guys can request? Okay, thank you.
And then the only other thing is that that one on that professional recruitment contract is not, to my knowledge, I have not seen it.
I was in contact with Andy, couldn't get hold of you, so I talked to Andy and basically visited with him. I just visited with him.
I don't know where we are on that, whether that's been located or not.
Any more comments, questions about the plan? Someone want to make a motion to accept the plan, any suggested changes?
I would make a motion to accept the plan with the accepted changes on it.
I'll second it.
First up, second, Brad. Roll call.
Greg?
Aye.
Brad?
Yep.
Skylar?
Aye.
Deb?
All right. Anything else? We'll go ahead and close that hearing. Yeah, just, we need to make a motion to close it.
See it on both ways.
Somebody want to make a motion to close it?
Yeah, go ahead and make one.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
First, Greg. Second, Skylar. Well, just to close the first hearing on the plan, and on what I said earlier, so.
Brad?
Yes.
Skylar?
Aye.
Deb? Greg?
Aye.
All right, moving on to agreement for economic development service between the city of Ainsworth and North Central Development Center. Like I said, we'll go ahead and take comments and concerns from public. Try to limit yourself to about 5 minutes. I do have some letters that were sent to the city office. One from Jerry Ehlers, a very extensive package. Let anybody go through it if you want to see it. It's a lot of information up here.
Basically history.
History of, NCDC and the things that NCDC has accomplished, goals and visions that they've had and done for the community. So that's up here if anybody wants to read that. And council, I think you guys got that too, don't you? Everybody's got that letter. Unless you guys want to get on anything in particular on that letter. Nothing.
Who was the letter from?
From Jerry Ehlers. It's a big package, so.
Do you kind of want to just say what he recommended?
Oh, yeah.
Last
Read all
sentence.
this through Jerry.
No,
Where
last
that's
sentence. Just the last sentence.
The last sentence on Jerry's letter, it says, I would encourage the city council to support the recommendation of the CARC. But I think you probably would talk about the NCDC. I'll read the last paragraph. I've attached a listing of NCDC projects from 2005 to 2018 to substantiate its impact on the community. The partnership between NCDC and the City of Ainsworth has been very productive and deserves the support of the City Council, as mandated by the voters in 2007. I've also attached a copy of my presentation to the City Council on December 12, 2018, which set in motion the efforts of the CARC to make recommendations to amend the manual in conformity of establishing accountability for administration of the LB 840 program and the management of the program. All right, that was from Jerry. I got another letter here. Let me finish reading these real quick and then I'll open it up. It's dated, Dear City Council members, I am writing as a private citizen and a local taxpayer. I fully oppose any agreement between the City of Ainsworth and the North Central Development Center regarding LB 840. With the recent reports of misused funds, missing documents, and pending audit, I believe it would be in the best interest of the city to administer the program. Sincerely, Betsy Sanger. Ainsworth City Council members. Though my husband and I live in Long Pine, we own property and businesses in Ainsworth. We also use the bulk of our purchasing power within the city limits of Ainsworth. We are not residents. We do not have a say in the city council elections, but our tax dollars do support the LB 840 fund, and we do see the need for it to be administered well in order to be successful. The LB 840 fund has been hugely beneficial to the community. The NCDC has been involved in projects that were hugely beneficial to the community, and yet the continued pairing is not and should not be given. The NCDC board is made up of volunteers who are not paid to serve in that role, but they are volunteers that will oversee hundreds and thousands of dollars, and the city needs to be able to trust that the administration of those funds is carried out legally and transparently. That has not been done. Administrating the fund has been too much for both volunteers and employees to handle well. Their actions do not hold up under scrutiny. That is a problem that simply rewriting the contract will not fix. This matter has exposed the loss of the public trust in the NCDC. I fear if NCDC is tagged to oversee the funding before the audit has come to a full and positive conclusion, the upcoming vote to continue to implement the LB 840 tax would not be successful. That would be terribly unfortunate consequence. An entity that is being questioned about their administration of the LB 840 funds should not be considered to continue in that role until all changes or all charges have been answered satisfactorily. At the time of writing, too many questions remain. Sincerely, Janelle Carpenter. Now, open it up to the public.
Well, as a member of the advisory committee, we presented this, I think, our third draft of a contract with changes recommended by the council, recommended by the NCDC board, and all approved by Mr. Ediger, the attorney that we're working with on this program. I think there's a little misunderstanding in your two letter writers. The NCDC is not, if we go into a contract, will not be administrating the funds. They'll be managing the program. All funds will come from the city office. So I just wanted to make that clear, and the council members have a copy of our latest proposed contract, and all the changes were highlighted, the latest changes, and we do have a clean copy ready for signature if you guys approve.
Thanks, Chris. John, sir.
Yeah, I got two, but on behalf of the hospital board, this has worked very well with us and it keeps us competitive. There were things that we know that are not, did not go quite right. I am not answering an email anybody. I do have a thing. There was a quote the other day. They have a morning meeting at the hospital and it says, at the end of the day, you can either focus on what's tearing you apart, or you can focus on what's keeping you together. And so I don't want to go backwards, let's go forwards. I'd encourage you guys to vote for this. It's done a lot of good. We can do better. I think continued audits, the audit is a way to hone and to make that stuff go better. I think the city council needs to set some strong expectations and accountability back to NCDC and let them go. I mean, we don't have an alternative, and to keep putting this off, you're putting us in a kind of a precarious position as we're trying to move. And we've got strategic plans and things as the new administrator has come on. That I don't want to say you're totally holding us up, but it is a problem. I mean, how do we move this forward? You know, I understand the $35,000 in the roof, but there was also an emergency that went on at the time with you know what I mean? I don't think there was any malice or intent there. So I would encourage you guys to vote for this agreement, and let's get moving on so that the hospital can take care of things that we need to. On a personal level, and I know not as a board member, the hospital, I tell you that there was a conversation and throughout this, an issue about somebody not being able to serve on the board because he didn't live in town or whatnot. And I took back and got on the internet, did some research, and up and down Maine and in this town, there are 20 businesses that do not stay in town and can't vote for any of you. We live in the country. I can't vote for you. Can't vote against you either, on my end. But I can't vote for you. There's 20 businesses. That represents about $2.8 million worth of valuation, and it represents about $45,000 a year in taxes. And I think as I sit here with Mike Schrod and guys like that, I think men like that, businessmen, you know, the days of the man getting up, walking downtown and shoveling his walk by 9, you now want it done by 6. Okay, and my point is Main Street has changed. It is a community thing. You guys have been good to the entire community, and NCDC's been good to the community. The Main Street is taking a changing look. There was a day when the Main Street businessmen didn't own farm ground. You know, now that's turned around. The rural sector, sitting there beside Joe, me, it wasn't the look that I took. I want you to know I didn't have an objective when I started, but there are people whose kids go to school here and whatnot. I did not count government entities from the post office to the ESU, NRCS, the REA. I did not count Viero, the corporate ownership from out of town. I'm talking about the people you see on the street. 20 of us own Main Street, own pieces of Main Street. And that is, to me, that was enlightening. It was quite a change. And I don't mean that trying to draw, absolutely, I've got a list of the businesses that I counted. It's not scientific. I don't want the list out there. It's not to create the controversy. It's to create the harmony that we have money invested back and forth within this community, and I think this will help move us forward in economic development as a community. And I know the hospital needs it, and we'll step up to what is a hospital board again here. You know, whatever level of accountability in which you want, we will step into. As I understand this going forward, we'll become an entity that will deal directly. More directly. So we'll do what we can to adhere to whatever problems have been in the past. Let's change it, move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I might add, this is not a 10-year contract. This is right now we're proposing a 1-year contract. You know, renewable upon a city council vote every year. But, you know, if we get a contract and 6 months down the road we think we need to change something, that can't happen. We're not entering a 10-year contract, so.
And thanks, Chris.
I just want to state as a long-time, nearly lifetime citizen of Ainsworth and Brown County, and as a professional on Main Street, might be the south end, but I'm there. I'm saying goodbye to hello on the upper town. And as a long-time volunteer of this community, I'm well vested in this community, and I'm encouraged and saddened at the same time with all of this that NCDC and the city dearly need to work together, in my opinion. We need NCDC there to promote a lot of growth and economic development in this community, like it's done, as you all see on the tables in front of you, what it's done for our community. And it's sad that it's kind of gotten to this point with some misunderstandings and unclear paths perhaps along the way, but it's not something that can't be resolved, cleaned up, and moved forward, as John said, and as Chris and his committee is indicating that they're very willing to do. We must strip aside personal grievances, and I'm just going to say it. Did I say those things? Maybe an effort to control certain areas of this community, and it's not about that. It's about all of us coming together and making this community as lively and long-lasting as possible with as much economic development. We're in a very unique area of Nebraska, up here in north central Nebraska, 45 miles from the next larger community and hours away from metro areas. We've got a corner on the market up here, and we need to be seeing that and marketing it and putting our people to use in very positive lights, and in using NCDC to help promote that. And I believe it's in the best interest of Ainsworth and Brown County as a whole to come to terms with this, agree to disagree in areas that we have to, but for the most part, come together, get it figured out, and move forward. And move on.
Thank you. And for everybody, NCDC, there's a statement, I believe this is out of the paper. Everybody should have that in front of them too, of things that they have done and whatnot. They didn't need to skip over that.
Maybe I can speak if nobody else. Okay. So I've got this is from definitions.uslegal.com/c/complicity. So the definition of complicity in criminal law refers to when someone is legally accountable or liable for a criminal offense based upon the behavior of another. Criminal complicity may arise in the following situations: with the intent to promote or assist the commission of the offense. 1, a person procures, induces, or causes such other person to commit the offense. 2, a person aids or abets such other person in committing the offense. Or 3, having a legal duty to prevent the commission of the offense. A person fails to make an effort he is legally required to make. We are the city council, and we represent the city. And we know, we have proof that NCDC took $35,000 of taxpayer money. We were told by the president of the board it was used to repair a roof. I have, and in the meetings of the last, or the minutes of the last meeting, Laurel Appleman spoke up and said that she knew the time when that happened. I've spoken with her since then, and she gave me a specific date. So I have proof here if anybody would like to see it. The date of the storm was March 5th of 2018 at 5, well, that's when the photo was taken. So the storm would have been probably March 4th. The money, $35,000, which we understood by the president was taken to repair the roof, was taken out of the account in May. We were told that this was an immediate necessity that needed to be done immediately, and it was an executive decision to take the money. I now know, I have proof here that the storm that was discussed and the date of the removal of funds are 2 months apart. And there's also questions, well, we now know, the council knows that, and the $35,000 was paid back later, months later in January, I believe. City council now knows how it was paid back. Money was taken out of the demolition fund, which is tax money given to NCDC for demolishing houses. It was taken out of that fund to pay back the $35,000 was taken. NCDC still owes the city $35,000, and that's just what we know. That is provable facts that we know about this whole issue. And we're sitting here discussing getting into a partnership with a business, an organization that stole from the city twice and still has not paid it back. This is criminal complicity if we vote to go through with this. We are on the hook for this. The city is responsible for this program, and we are complicit. If we vote to continue with NCDC, we will be complicit in anything that they have done or will do, because we know what they've done, and we are responsible to take action. And I think, regarding the tax money that was taken to repay the tax money that was taken, that we should take action to audit everything we've given to NCDC, and I think it would be in the best interest of the city to not give them any more tax money at all, and to move forward so that LB 840 won the state, well, and I should also know, NCDC, per the last meeting, is currently under investigation for this theft. I think it would be in the city's best interest to part ways with NCDC so that we do not lose the LB 840 program when the city comes down on NCDC. It is absolutely crystal clear to me that this is what needs to be done, and I am flabbergasted by the amount of blowback this is getting. And I've looked at the contract as well, and I thought, you know, everybody says the contract will work, there's no way they can screw us over. I looked through this and I scoured through this and made notes about every possible way that NCDC could screw the city over. I made 16 notes in this contract. We had a plan before, based on a law that NCDC and the city was supposed to follow. Both parties didn't follow it. It was not followed at all. To me, there's no reason that a contract is any different than a plan that's based on a law. So I think that if the city continues to go through with this, then I basically think the hammer's going to come down. That's my piece. Thank you.
Thanks.
Has the investigation started on that 35,000? Have they been visited by the law at all?
I called the sheriff's office today to get an update because I hadn't heard anything for a while, and I was informed by the sheriff that it had been given to a sergeant in the state patrol who was going to be passing it to the major, who will then get in touch with Brown County Sheriff's Office once the major has it. So that's the update. Nothing, we're just waiting to hear from the state patrol.
More comments?
Well, from a legal standpoint, if there's an investigation, which there will be here if there hasn't started, it might be premature to, well, it probably would be premature to enter into any sort of an agreement until you know the outcome.
That's part of the reason that I think we should, instead of hiring NCDC again and setting ourselves up for liability, I think the city should bid out the position. And if you guys would prefer, we could make it a city position, or we could contract it out and take bids.
But doing that, I believe we're still pushing this back at least 3 months. We're locking up LB 840 for at least 3 months.
If we give them LB 840 and they start investigating them, how long do you think the program's going to be stuck?
I just don't think our office here, the city office, has the capability of managing LB 840 along with administering. I've always said that it should not be managed and administered under the same roof.
Yeah, we currently, in operating costs, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, is it 70,000 or 75 in operating costs for LB 840? 75. We currently, in operating costs, give NCDC $75,000 a year to manage the LB 840 program. It is my personal opinion that we could save, probably easily $25,000 by bidding this out to somebody to do. So we could hire somebody at the city for significantly less than it costs us to have NCDC do this. And I still, I do want to make a motion to either audit or, well, to both audit and revoke the tax money that we give to NCDC, out of the general fund, the $12,000, and the demolition funds and any other that I may or may not be aware of. But I don't know if that's part of the hearing. I might have to take action after the hearing.
What? Well, you gotta have it on the agenda before you can bring it up, and it need to be placed on the next agenda.
I would like to place on the next agenda.
And there is, as I remember that, I think most of the grant administrators that I've known are paid on a basis of so much percentage of each loan or each transaction that they complete with the individual business. And that varies, I think, from maybe 3 to 10%, maybe, depending upon the amount. Probably should set some sort of a scale on that. And it gives whoever is doing the program at the city will hire somebody some incentive to do something. If you just give them a flat amount of money, they could get all the money and not do anything. I like the idea, I guess, some sort of incentive, percentage of each project they complete.
I think it'd be criminal to get the business done at all. I really do.
Any more comments?
Just a quick question. So earlier in the meeting, there was comments between you two.
Yeah.
So tell me more about the arrangement or the business situation you had going, because it feels like
I understand.
There's a thorn in your side that's driving all of this, and I'd like to know more about it.
So I moved back to Ainsworth about 2 or 3 years ago. Must have been about 3 years ago. When I came back, shortly after, I got a wild idea to start a sandwich shop in town. I've worked in many sandwich shops. Unfortunately, not my favorite job, but anyway, so I know the business, and my mom actually has managed Subway, so we were working together. We thought about starting a sandwich shop. It's actually, we haven't given up on it, but it's been very, it's been a rough slog. And I spoke with NCDC about getting funding for the business, and they were very helpful. They set me up with a REAP loan officer. I sent an application for a business loan. They denied it. I didn't have enough collateral because I don't own anything. And then I did speak to the board because we discussed in the movie theater building, they discussed using the north half of that to rent out to a business. And so we talked about maybe doing that, and then it didn't work out. They couldn't get the money. I know they've been mired with architectural issues and funding issues and whatnot. So since then, I mean, basically, it's just kind of, I fell out of contact with Kristen and NCDC, just haven't really, I've been working on, I've had a hard time finding a location. It's been a big deal. So I thought I had another location on Main Street that fell through, and basically I just haven't had a chance to get it up and running. And that was, I believe, I can't say a specific date. I probably stopped talking to them in sometime at the beginning of summer last year.
Okay, and Deb, can you comment on anything? Tell me what's going on.
I don't think I can give specifics just because I've signed the confidentiality.
Okay. So can anybody tell me anything else?
I don't know.
What would you like to know?
Well, there's two sides to everything. So
Right.
I'm hearing your side, and I mean, you're adamant in how, what your feelings are and stuff.
Right.
Tell me why, or tell me why NCDC.
Well, one of the things that is particularly concerning regarding just this $35,000, and that's, once again, that's.
And I understand all that, so you don't have to go into.
Right. Well, I'm under fiduciary duty by my position as city council to look out for the city, the best interest of the city, the citizens, and the taxpayers. And NCDC they have done some good things with LB 840. I am not disputing that at all. I think LB 840 is a fantastic program. I personally hope that it can continue running, because I think it's vital. However, this is tax money that has gone to things that it should not have gone to, and there's still questions. We haven't even seen, I don't know if it was after the audit or why, we haven't seen invoice or anything regarding the $35,000 put towards the roof. And the funny thing about that.
It's attached in your packet.
What's that?
It is attached in your
Okay,
packet.
okay.
You've received
Did you have insurance for that roof, Kristen?
The roof is actually covered by insurance, yes,
Okay.
and there was a replacement cost to that.
Okay.
I think there's some misunderstandings in the community about the roof that was or was not replaced.
Okay,
There's
maybe.
actually two sections of that roof. There's 60 feet, which is the first 60 feet from the street to the back. And then the next 40 feet is the 40 feet that was actually completely replaced earlier prior to that.
Okay.
We've been assured that the first 60 feet was still in good shape. Unfortunately, it wasn't.
Okay.
And that's the issue. That is the
Okay.
part of the roof that has been replaced.
Okay.
It was not the back 40 feet of the roof that blew off. It was
Okay.
the 60 feet. And it wasn't the entire roof that blew off. The wind caught it, probably from the west, and it rolled all of the sheeting off, and that is what hit Laurel Appleman's car.
Okay,
So
so that was in March.
that
So
is-
why was the $35,000 taken out in May?
Actually,
Which is funny, because it actually was taken out
I can
about 2
explain that.
weeks,
You can
2 or
quiet
3
your
weeks
talk.
before. No, this is a discussion.
No,
It was
I'm
actually
more
taken
than
out
happy to
just
explain.
very shortly before a business was started in town. The the Canyon Creek Bar and Grill, created by ED Ventures LLC, registered agent being Kristen Olson, and a liquor license which was applied for shortly after that $35,000 was taken. It's just funny to me, the coincidence.
I'd be more than happy to explain that to you.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
So NCDC, I don't know how many theater committee members or if I have any of them here actually. The theater, yes, the incident was in March.
Yes, okay.
What happened is it's an EPDM is what the roofing is called. It's a rubber membrane. So for that to be replaced, it has to be a certain temperature. In March, it was still snowing. My daughter and I spent her snow day hauling the water and the snow off the roof and out through the top. So that's the difference between, we had to wait until it would hit 50 degrees. And
Okay.
it had to be consistently
But
50
you-
degrees for a week.
Okay.
So that's why you see that the contractor did not
So
actually
you
come.
didn't have $35,000 in your operating fund to cover that?
That is correct.
So you took it from the LBA 40 funds?
What they did is they actually used, they had
Who made the decision? I heard it was an executive
You
decision.
know what,
to take that
Skylar,
house.
I'm not going to get into this. This is not the purpose of the meeting tonight. You know, we are currently under investigation, so by legal counsel, I've been
Yes.
advised not to comment on
That's-
that.
makes
But I'd be
sense.
more than happy to answer any questions you have in regard to the theater.
Okay, thank you very
Or
much.
the contract for discussion tonight.
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks, Tyler.
I do have a question, back to comments, Skylar, you made. You said that they still owe the city back $35,000.
Yes.
How are you calculating that? How are you figuring that out?
Because they took $35,000 and they repaid it with a different amount of money that they got
And
from
what did they
taxes.
repay it with?
They repaid it from their general fund, which they had replenished with the demolition funds from ABC and city funds.
And that's where that money comes from?
Yes.
Or are you positive?
Yes.
I think you better do some more research.
Okay, well, if NCDC would gladly present me with the documents, I would love to read them.
But the money has been repaid, is that correct?
The LB 840 funds have been repaid. I would still like to know where that demolition funds have been used, if they have been used, and as well as the $12,000 that we give them from the general fund. But that's for another agenda, for another meeting.
Any other questions, comments?
There was a comment made about auditing the LB 840 fund. I'm fairly certain we did that this last audit, or I think we did.
Audited the 35,000?
The whole.
Oh, you're saying the whole?
The whole audit.
Yes, that is correct. And the 35,000 that was taken from the demolition funds was in January, so that has not yet been audited. And it wouldn't have been audited anyway because it was not LB 840 funds.
One else?
As I, look at different letters up here from people, the one from Jerry Ewers showing what the LB 840 and NCDC has done in the past for a lot of years. Their track record is pretty good, pretty darn good, what they've done for this community. the issues out there, we were advised that on the $35,000 to report it. The council, I guess, did what they were supposed to do. We reported it. Moving forward, if we happen to go into a contract with NCDC, I don't see how that can happen again. The city of Ainsworth controls all the funds. NCDC is going to advise the council. They'll do the application procedure, advise the council on different applications, and then the council will move forward, whether we approve it and pay it out through the city, and NCDC would have no purpose of those funds to be able to handle them. I don't see how it could ever go back to where it was.
Brad, I have a list of 16 different ways that they could use the system.
With funds?
Yes.
They can take money out of the LB 840 fund?
Yes.
And
Well, yeah, it would not be hard.
So they are on
So
our bank accounts?
So now, we would write them a check, and then if they misuse the money, we would be held liable for it.
You won't write us a check, you'll write it to whoever.
Scattered money, if we were to go into a contract, would be for administrative services.
Right.
That's what that would be for. That would be up to them to use as they see fit. In fact, what Brad's saying, the LB 840 funds here are used for economic development, which is under the control of the city. Application process through the loan committee, through them would come here, either we approve or deny. Okay.
Yes, yep.
So the money is controlled by the city, not the LB, or not the NCDC.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
Yes.
Greg, I have
So-
a question. You said that, and I don't, I'm sorry, something.
No, that's all right, that's all right.
When you said that the funds for administrative services, that would still be subject to an audit? Once you hand in the funds, the NCDC would, I mean, those administrative funds would be subject to the city's audit? I'm
It
just
have to
curious.
be if we get our audits done on an annual basis.
Right,
It
okay.
should be as part of the city.
I mean, I understand they're not handling the grant money or the, that, but the administrative, so you're still auditing the NCDC.
When the NCDC is presenting a budget from the city every
Yeah.
year, and that's how you come up with money that's allowed.
So they're still subject to.
The audit comes about because the state law says LB 840 funds only are audited annually.
That is correct.
Now,
In
if
2016, NCDC
these are
requested
LB
an audit.
840 funds that go into the expense account of NCDC, I would assume that that would be also subject to being audited. But I don't know that.
No, it can't be. If the city's gonna give it money, then they can make it accountable.
It's not, there's a distinction between the paying them the money to do the program administration and the money that they use for businesses, for startup and loans and things like that. I think that was what was intended to be audited. Now, if you hire somebody separately, is that part of the audit? I don't know. I'd have to ask the auditors what their thoughts were.
Doesn't the NCDC have their own audits done?
We do.
It's just by the people who do it, or just an individual.
Right, but you guys have an audit, an annual audit?
Our annual audit is, actually, we utilize data on full, and actually we've been advised that we are not required to have a full audit. There's differences in audits. I am not an auditor, so I can't explain that, but I think there's 3 different levels. We actually don't have enough federal funds and other funds, but our auditor is mostly not doing the investigation as well. I can't speak. I'm here as a personal citizen today. I'm not here representing NCDC at this time. But I guess I would find it hard to believe that the NCDC board, who I worked for 13 years, would be objectionable to letting you guys audit the operational account. I see no reason why. Again, I'm here as a business owner and as an individual in our community. So, but having worked there for them, I think our board has been very rational. I think they've done the best they can with the resources that they've been provided. And I think that they would probably be willing to open those books so that you could see where that administration money went if you awarded them a contract.
Now, LB 840 was supposed to be audited every year since it came into Brown County. Or supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
And there were a number of years that it did not get audited.
That's a misstatement. It's audited every year. It just was not audited to the depth that it was this It's audited, in the past it has been audited basically up until the city cuts the check.
But if it would have been audited to the depth, it would have found, probably earlier, it would have found deficiencies.
Yeah.
So that falls back either on the city or our auditor for not finding those deficiencies, or the city for, so that don't fall back on NCDC or anybody else on those deficiencies. Because they would have been caught way back when, we could have corrected them way back when.
Well, but as Mr. Editor said, the laws have changed over a period of time, which has changed those parameters also, which again, we could have been doing it at that time, and that may not have caught the last couple of years because as the laws changed. Again, I thought he made a good point. We just need to move forward. We need to get things updated and do it properly, which again, the Citizens Advisory Review Committee is making those recommendations, which I thought was good. Get that handled and continue to move forward. In my opinion, our community's got to move forward. I do not want to see this community move backwards. And that's my biggest concern. Plus, we need to work together. You know, I'll be honest with you, this has been kind of frustrating as an individual from the community on this council. It's been frustrating, you know.
It's been frustrating on this committee too.
Yeah. You know, and I've got to visit with a lot of people. You know, I visited some gentlemen today that have some very good points. You know, that I appreciate them coming and visiting. It was nice to have them come in and talk. Again, they have good points, things that we need to consider to continue to move forward in this community. And I thought, John, you brought an excellent statement up. You mentioned a lot of business owners on Main Street do not live in the city limits. I think that's something that we need to continue to look at as we move forward. How do we make those adjustments? What can we do to keep all people involved, not just the people maybe live inside the city limits? Because again, they're large contributors of our community. I guess I have a question. If we were to enter into a contract with the NCDC, I know according to what the review committee has presented, that contract says March 1st, 2019. That's Friday. What can the commitment be from the NCDC if we were to enter into a contract? Would they be able to be ready to be up and functioning on Friday? Or is that being unrealistic?
Well, you know, at this point right now, the office is closed.
Right.
And, you know, because of the fact that we don't have, you know, we're not going to have to administer those funds anymore. Believe it or not, that doesn't hurt the board or I'm sure it doesn't bother us at all. That actually takes some of the work out of there. We're not sure how much, as a board, we're probably going to figure out what we need to do moving forward, because we're not going to need quite the same, maybe the same personnel in the office as we had before. So, you know, we're just going to have to look at what we actually get given to run the office, to how to budget and how to use it the best way. I think even right now as we speak, we're still doing part-time.
You have to have a board meeting to accept or reject any contract.
Yeah, we have to have a board meeting.
So realistically, March 1st, it's on the present contract you guys are looking at. It's not realistic. If we were to enter into something, we're probably going to be closer to the 10th or 15th of the month.
Or at least a week. I don't know how long it takes to get a board meeting together. That's probably what it would take.
Next question I'd have from the city side of it, if we were into the contract with you guys, and I guess given X number of dollars that was presented in the contract, would the city be a priority for the NCDC office because we're a large contributor if we were to do that?
I think the city has always been our major concern. You know, the city, you know, the NCDC has also had funds from other contributions besides the city, but mainly not to run the office, but to do other projects from other businesses.
As far as grant writing, be able to write all the grants.
If we need to get to be doing the CDGB funds, and we're going to have, if there's going to be a lot of that, we'll have to get training for that. I think that's on a yearly basis, and if that's required, that certainly be done. Actually, the office used to be set up for that, but there was hardly a time when we needed to have that, but so there's a training fee and some money that goes into that, so the office decided not to get that because you can actually contract that if you choose the accounting part of that, or to get that done. But if that's what the city would want that office to do, I'm pretty sure we would go and get the training to do that. But we need to know because it happens once a year, that training. And so, indeed, we can get that.
Well, it goes back.
And the other side is that there is a cost to that, so, I don't know if we budgeted that into this amount or not.
I think it goes back to what Rod had mentioned earlier, a lot of times in that type of environment, if we're going out to have somebody do grant writing for us, it is in that percentage category, about 5% or whatever.
Yeah, so
I guess I
if we
really
were-
struggle with going outside our area and paying somebody 5% outside our area. If we have the people here that we can work with, and we can work together, why aren't we spending our dollars locally instead of outside our area?
I think what I'm trying to say is that just the accounting part, so you don't give 5% out if you were to actually get somebody else to do that. But indeed, as far as the office is concerned, obviously we're changing the how our mode of operation is going to be. We do not have to deal with all these accounts anymore. But we can certainly get the training with the CDGB because they've already done it before.
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Chris.
I guess to clarify just a little bit, there's a difference between grant writing and grant administrating. NCDC is qualified and can write any grant at this time. There's no difference. We can write any grant, whether or not we are certified or not. It's on the administration of the actual project. Both of NCDC's former staff members have been certified in the past. But at that time, you're correct, there wasn't enough volume produced by the city to justify that cost. Each one of the costs was about $500. That didn't include travel or anything else. So to do one grant every 4 years, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to keep getting recertified and go to all of the additional. The other thing is you have to keep in mind at that time, it was during the economic stimulus plan. And so a lot of the funds through CDBG were actually being funneled through other sources, which was the ARA money, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, and we actually received those funds for the library. But they had changed some of the things on the federal side of how those were done. So there's no reason why NCDC staff at some time could not become certified. I think that training's in May. But there is a difference, just so everybody understands. You asked about grant writing. Grant writing is different than grant administration. We can write a grant today for the city of Ainsworth without any problems. It would be if we were asked to administer, because again, I'm not here today as staff. I'm not a staff member of NCDC today. But on the administration side of things, they would need to become certified. There's Davis-Bacon laws, there's Buy American. So there's lots of things that if you're not using it on a daily basis, it doesn't make a lot of sense. There are people that are experts in that. So that's kind of at that point why we had changed. Now, the city of Ainsworth has some big projects scheduled. Back in 2009, NCDC office actually wrote the grant for the Main Street Highway 20 project. That was a CDBG grant. We wrote the grant, but we did not administer the grant. So again, just another scenario. Those funds were actually used to put together the plan for Main Street and Highway 20. That plan is still coming to fruition, we hope, at some point, pending Department of Roads. So knowing that you have some of those larger projects coming down the pike, I think it seems realistic or reasonable that that would be something that we would reconsider, because CDBG funds would be considered, I would assume, for funding a project like that.
Which then in return would be a large savings to the city.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I know I have concern about the pay. With you saying that stuff you can move back, you're gonna not have as much duties and stuff to do back in the office. I'm wondering about the pay of the annual amount that will be given by the city to you guys. Just a concern, something to look at. I don't know if we need to go over that or look at that.
Do you have a recommendation?
Kristen's got something.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that. I don't know. I guess I'm not here for NCDC, so I want to make that clear.
Go ahead.
I think when Kim said that the duties are changing, honestly, NCDC's evolved so much. When I first came here, a little over 13 years ago, we had a $20,000 budget. I was hired on to work, I think, 3-4 days a week, and I work 7. That's just how we roll. You know, if there's a project to chase, we chase it. So things have changed. We have evolved. You know, at one point we didn't need to be certified because at that point we had a development district that was certified. Since that time, the development district is now in place, and they are. We utilize Judy to do those things like CDBG administration. So we no longer needed to do that. So I think the role of NCDC has changed, and I think this potential contract that's outstanding, whoever the staff might be or whoever the board might be needs to consider that. But I actually think it's an advantage to the city and to NCDC. And the reason I say that is because we have a lot of projects right now that we can't take every single call that comes in our door. There are projects that we should be chasing. From an economic development standpoint, you're not paid to look out after today. We are here to look out after 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. I mean, we should be thinking about what's coming down the pipe, not just what we have to deal with today. And in the past, I'd say we put out a lot of fires. Literally and figuratively, unfortunately, back in 2012. We did have a big fire. That was not something that NCDC typically would have taken care of. However, there was no one else in the area to step up and be able to serve as that entity, and we did. We started Fire Relief Fund. So every year, NCDC's changed a little bit. I think this is actually a good opportunity for both the city and economic development, because instead of the economic development office spending time doing the things that the city can do and has the staff and has the knowledge to do, handling those accounts, that gives us time to do the things that we're good at, which is helping businesses, being in the door and asking, do they need energy efficiency? Do they need a revolving loan fund? Do they need assistance understanding cash flow? Do they need business plan training? Some of those things that we haven't been able to do as much of lately, we can do a better job. Because now we're going to have the time and we're not going to be spending it administering 20-some different bank accounts. You know, I think this is an advantage, and I think it's going to work well for the city and for NCDC if both parties choose to enter into a contract.
Thank you, Chris.
Anybody else? Comments?
From a treasury perspective, $48,000 is about what I make in salary a year. I do about 10 jobs for the city. So just to put it into proportion, that was my concern.
Yeah, I think if you want to go check on what it costs for to get a economic developer, you'll find that I don't think those funds would even cover that, let alone the office itself. It's fairly expensive.
Well, for the city to, I mean, across the state of Nebraska, there's multiple municipalities that handle this program in-house through hiring their own economic development director. So I think it would be possible for the city to conduct that throughout the city office on a more reasonable pay scale. But again, that's a treasury standpoint.
So the fact they're under investigation, Ron was talking about that. I don't know, I think we should at least wait until the investigation's done and see what comes of it, at the very least.
So we can motion to table this.
Yeah, I make a motion to table this until we hear back about the criminal investigation at the CDC.
Was there a second to table that? No second.
I make a motion we enter into an agreement with NCDC to begin March 18, 2019 with an annual fee of $36,000 paid quarterly, receive 5% grant or loan amounts, and capped at total cost of $60,000.
Is there a second for all of that?
Second.
First by Fran, second by Greg. Roll call?
Brad?
Roll call.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
You might want to have a discussion on it, if there's any discussion.
Is there anybody who wants to discuss all that?
I think that a yes vote would be a criminal intent, or it would be criminal action, whether it be intent or just negligence. That is my piece. Thank you.
Was Rick at Anger, was he good with entering into a contract?
He said without pending investigation out there, he felt comfortable going into an agreement with NCDC as long as they did not have any funds of the cities in their possession.
I talked to Rick today, because I had that question as well. Because Sheriff Papstein had told me that his perspective was not to entertain a contract until the investigation had been completed. So I did call Rick to ask his opinion. He said the contract in his mind was a matter of politics more than a legal issue. He said he takes no position on the political aspect of it. He did say that he would basically recommend anything that came from the sheriff or the city attorney, that he would stand behind whatever their recommendation was.
So with that being said, if something does come down, this contract could be ended immediately.
There's a 30-day out.
Yeah,
Chuck
so-
in this, so if that would have to, we'd have to react to it, yes. Also, I think, Rod, you brought up a question on the contract. We talked to Rick about the contract. He said on that contract, he said, by law, we don't have to have one in writing. But he said, it depends on what your plan says, but he said that would be best practice to have something in writing. He said, but by law, you don't have to. That contract we discussed that we need to get rectified. So we talked to Rick about that also. Because that was a question we had. Those were the two items I think that were still outstanding that we had questions on. And so like I said, we did talk to his mayor about that. And that was his comment. There's a need to look at the plan. It's not required by law. But he would encourage to have that type of information. He said the best practice to have it.
What start date did you say, Brad?
March 18th, 2019.
Can
It's a
you
Monday.
Brad, can you repeat for number 4 consideration, the numbers are changing to what again, so I get it right?
Annual amount of $36,000 paid quarterly with that 5% for grant and loan amounts with a cap of $60,000.
Thank you.
Ron, any comments? Briggs?
I don't know if I can add anything more to it, but I haven't already said. I think, I don't know Don Brown, or Don Brown. Mr. Austin, I think, had made some statement relative to that, Lisa maybe. And he made a suggestion.
Yeah, as I said, that he had suggested to wait, not act until the investigation had been completed.
And there's no time frame on the investigation.
Like I said, I called today to sort of check up, and it's in the state patrol's hands, so.
And the odds of this area losing LB 840, nobody wants that to happen. So if we do enter into a contract, is that an option for us to lose LB 840? And we try an alternate?
No. That was
Okay.
voted in by the people.
So we're good.
It'll come
Sorry,
back before.
Bree.
Was Bree
You still
probably-
wanna know.
It's a good question.
It comes back before the voters in 2023, I believe is what the sun says.
The LBA 40 funds are still gonna be continued to be gathered in.
Even if
That's
it's,
not a question.
if they're under investigation, would they freeze the fund?
No, because it's coming to the city.
Oh, I gotcha, I gotcha.
comments, discussion?
I just would like for it to be quoted in the minutes that, I think a yes vote on this would be, criminal.
Kristen?
I have a Robert's Rules of Order question. You actually had a motion on the table, and then you did not take any action on that motion. There was a lack of a second.
Oh,
And
we
then you
got
have
it.
another motion on the table, so I think to clarify that.
The
that
first one
needs-
died for lack of a second.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure
Yep.
that everybody understood it died for lack of a
Yep,
second.
yep.
It needs to be noted in the minutes.
I guess we can roll call on that then. First by Brad and second by Greg for changing to 36,000 paid quarterly. Quarterly. With a cap of 60,000.
What are-
5%.
What are the laws on who up there can vote on this? Who has to abstain from voting on NCDC?
If you've been to some of the meetings, you know that I abstain
I
every
know
time.
you do. You mentioned earlier you were trying to tell Tim that he needed to abstain for having prior,
I think he does too,
okay.
but
And then over on this side, you served on
I'm not on the
NCDC,
NCD's board.
but you have,
In the
correct?
past, yes.
Okay, so you have a past member, a past applicant, a current member. I don't know about Brad, but
I'm just here.
what's the law on who has to abstain and,
Well, there are laws on this, and it's pretty well left up to the individuals whether they feel that they are so conflicted that they should abstain from the vote if they have a conflict of interest. And so they are subject to those laws if they vote and they shouldn't have. So that's about all I can say. It's left up to the individuals.
And I'm not sure about Greg, but I had to fill out a form, and it's on file with the city, that I have a conflict of interest. So, I don't know, you know, and I called the state and they were fine.
Everybody's filled that form out correctly, Lisa.
I don't think I have.
I have.
but I haven't.
I won't do, I mean, if we can after the meeting, I'll just do it right away.
All right. So we're ready for roll call for the agreement for 36,000 quarterly, 60 yearly, and 5% on the 18th of March.
Brad,
Yes.
Skylar,
No.
Deb,
Abstain.
Greg.
Aye.
2, 1 abstaining. Passes. I guess we can go ahead and close the public hearing on that. Unless there's any more comments from anybody in the public.
Close the hearing.
Yeah, can I get a motion to close at 6:25 for the hearing on that?
I move to close the hearing.
First by Skylar, second.
I'll second it.
Second Brad. Roll call.
Skylar,
Aye.
Deb, Greg,
Aye.
Brad.
Yep.
4-0 pass.
Jeremiah?
Ma'am?
Do we need to type this back up and bring it for approval at the next meeting then? Will NCDC be here? How do we handle it on our end, or is it all yours
It
now?
has to be signed.
Well,
before the
it's gonna have to be, yeah, come before the 18th, so. Yeah, with the change in minutes.
So we gotta have to type a clean copy.
Go
because
with the
I-
plan and, I guess if we can get the plan done on the 18th, before the 18th too, and then the contract too.
Yeah.
Because there's some changes on the plan.
We've got it.
I mean, you can talk afterwards, it's fine.
Okay. We just have a clean copy for the 18th.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and, thanks for their
Yeah.
concerns. We'll go ahead and adjourn at 16:26. Everybody have a good evening. 18:26.